we never did. So Andrew Hudson,
Andrew. Okay.
Mike Brown,
Mike Brown, and Matt
Ryan Sherry.
or Ryan. Yeah.
Ryan Sherry. Yeah.
and Matt
Right.
is the
Matt is the
mystery
absent
to
one.
come.
Cool.
Yep.
He's probably the best looking, has the most hair out of all of us. So
I was doing some digging
we
on
like
you
to keep him
guys.
off camera. That's right.
I was doing some digging on y'all, and I saw like a throwback photo of y'all in college and stuff, and some of y'all had manes.
Yeah. Yeah. I had long hair.
Simmons
At one
definitely
point,
had the long hair.
Matt had
Yeah.
long hair. Yeah.
Hey,
I had a
trust
little
me,
bit more.
my forehead's getting bigger every year too. I feel like I'm gonna be in the same club here soon.
Yep.
It's the kids that did it to me, man. Once those kids came, the hairs, there's just nothing holding it in.
Yeah, you got
Don't
another
tell me
couple
that,
more
man.
years.
We'll talk about the downside of kids later on.
I mean, kids are great. Yeah.
Wasn't
Nice.
kids for me. Mine just started dropping out 25. So,
Nice.
you're
You're already further along than he
been
is.
rocking this bald look for a while.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, cool. Here we are with the core four. It's good to have you guys on the show. I really do appreciate being able to talk to you guys.
Yeah, man. It's an
Great to
honor
be here.
Honor to be here.
So, one thing that I like is, like, of course, looking up you guys, doing a little research and stuff. The core four is not just like simply because it's just four amigos getting together and drinking bourbon and, talking about anything and everything, but y'all have four pillars basically of like what you would define as, masculinity. And you try to, on a daily basis, like put those in a perspective for other people. I just want to give y'all a chance to kind of talk about, how that came about, like how y'all kind of discussed what would be the pillars and, how you guys would move forward with that. So, whoever wants to take it from there.
Sure. Yeah, I'll go for it. So we got Ryan and Andrew here right now with me, Mike, and Matt Simmons is not here with us right now. He might pop in here in a little bit, but so we all got to know each other through church and through this CLC group that we were part of called Christian Leadership Concepts. And that was me, Andrew, and Ryan. And then Matt was in one before us and then popped in after with us as like kind of like a follow-up Bible study to that. So that was a 2-year commitment. Every week we were meeting, just getting deep into different categories for your life and learning how to be a leader in each of those categories. And, got into a lot of deep conversations with each other, got to know each other pretty well. And at that point, we all were having growing families and we were all getting some dad bods. And we figured it was probably time
Serious dad bods
to get back into the fitness aspect of our lives and improve on that a little bit. And that's what started really the core four, because we started working out. There was 4 of us, and then there was more people, but some people kind of came, some people went. The core four stuck. So we that's where the core four came from, and incorporated this podcast into it thanks to the technical skills of Mr. Sherry over here, and got us rolling on all of that. And really, we just wanted to take those deep conversations and continue the accountability and just bring that out into into other people's lives, because we know a lot of other dudes are dealing with the same type of stuff we are, and we wanted to just talk about it, see where it takes us, and we're still kind of seeing where it takes us. So
Yeah, and the development of the pillars, we sat down together, we talked about creating a podcast to have those deep conversations and to bring some of that stuff into the light. And so we started talking about, what could we label these pillars as. We knew that we wanted to do 4 because there's 4 of us. We wanted to call it Core 4. And so we started to think about, what are the aspects of our lives that we feel we need to work on and that we need to balance. And so we came up with be fit, be driven, be noble, and be chill. And each one of those pillars, they're all great things in your life, but they all need balance as well. And so we look at the foundation of those pillars as our faith. And then the pillars, they ebb and flow. Your fitness can head towards the dad bod, but maybe your nobility or your drive is way up there. So we just talk about how we can balance those pillars and how we can work on those and call each other out on them, be accountable to each other, and then encourage other people who are listening to be encouraged by that as well.
Yeah, the balance is the key part in the be chill. The be chill we thought was the good one to add in there that's missed in a lot of these different accountability type podcasts that might be out there because again, the be chill is important because that is a balancing aspect of your life that you need if you're trying to be fit and be driven and be noble all the time. You're probably going to burn out. So, there's got to be an aspect of being chill and hanging out with your friends, family in different types of ways as well. So, we like to incorporate all of it.
So like starting with be chill, if you peeled that apart and you had to basically kind of teach a lesson on that pillar, how would you explain that to, let's just say, some lost male soul who just doesn't know where to start with his masculinity?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it's probably we could start there and even easier because when you're talking about the other pillars, like I said, being fit, being driven, being noble, those all take a lot of time and a lot of work in order to uh, get to a point where I mean you're always growing in those areas. You don't have to grow in being chill necessarily, but you do need to take that aspect because you can see guys in today's workplace where you're just going right. Their motor, their mind is always going towards work, and it's very easy to be when you're trying to be driven. You can forget about just hanging out with your family and spending some time with your kids and having some fun playing games, doing different things like that. And again, all that kind of stuff can take a toll on you if you're not doing those types of things and you're not relaxing. So that's where the be chill pillar really came in to remember to step back sometimes, not take yourself too seriously for everything.
Yeah. So then, moving on to the other ones, I feel like obviously being fit, it these things can be like self-explanatory, but at the same time, me and my wife have two completely different approaches to what it means to like be fit. And so I guess being in a group of guys and then also being married men with children, what is fitness to you? How do you compartmentalize it? Where like what place does it hold in your life essentially?
Yeah, I think when we're looking at that, you're absolutely right. Like it's going to be different for different people and different groups. So for the fitness aspect for our group, it meant we got kids during the day, we're working. A lot of those times are kind of taken up. So we're either early in the morning or late at night, but we're going to try to get together, lift some weights, do some running. Our fitness was a little bit more the CrossFit type style, so lifting, running, just a variety of different things like that. But we recognize that other people's fitness, they might want to do a marathon, they might want to do triathlons. Like it can vary a lot for people, but we wanted that as one of the pillars, just to really be able to have some focus on that area of fitness, knowing that that's going to help you in other areas. It's going to help you with your energy. It's going to help you have an outlet for stress, different things like that. And for us, it means getting up at 5:30 in the morning and throwing some weights around and joking around with your brothers, when you probably don't want to be up and you'd rather be sleeping, but forcing yourself to get up, have some accountability, and lifting some heavy things off the ground every now and again.
Yeah, that was the hardest thing for me because, I would have never considered myself a morning person prior to this.
Still aren't.
And I'm still not. I'm getting better though, but that's, as you're going through all these different areas in your life, you gotta find the time to do it. And do you really want to go out at 9 p.m. on a cold winter night in Ohio and go work out? No. I mean, do you want to do that early in the morning? Not necessarily, but if you want to get it in, then that's really the only time to make it happen. And like Andrew said, we're going through this healthy idolatry sermon series at our church right now. And obviously right now is a big time to talk about it in January after the holidays. We're all a little pudgy from the, all the good food over Thanksgiving and Christmas.
I feel that.
Yeah. Yeah. Got a couple extra pounds
all
on.
the New Year's resolutions right now.
I feel that on another level.
Yeah, for sure. So, that's where a lot of people then can take that to a level that's not healthy, where then then fitness and health becomes their idol, right? And almost becomes an identity for them where they're putting everything into that. And so like for us, I mean, I think we all, again, it's all about balance, and we want to be fit enough so that we can be a good husband, we can be a good father, we can hopefully play with our children past our 40s, maybe. I don't know. We're getting
Hopefully.
close there. But so again, it's just about the balance of it.
I think that's where that fitness does mean a little bit different to each person. It's, what's your ultimate goal? What do you want to do with that fitness? And I think all of us with the dad aspect, where like we want to be able to play with our kids, roughhouse with them. And I think I have 4 boys. So I remember when I was having my last 2 were twin boys. When we found out they were boys, like somebody at my work was like, wow, you better get in shape because they're going to be testing you the rest of your life. So some of that aspect is just that, like, we want to be good examples for our kids too, but also want to compete with our kids and compete with each other a little bit as well.
You want to be able to put them in their place. Is that
you got to be able to put them in their place. Yeah.
I feel that. What do you guys have conversations about fitness like with your family, or is it just amongst yourselves? Like, do like the wives get in the mix with it, or like, do you say like, "Hey kids, let's go do this"? What kind of conversations y'all have there?
It depends whose wife you're talking about. so 2 of our wives are
2 of them do nothing.
2 of them
do a lot.
2 of them do but yeah, I mean, we encourage whatever they like to do, and we'll talk to them about it. But my kids, for instance, I've got 4 kids also, but so they'll see me working out down in my basement here, or they'll see my friends come over in the morning, come over early, they hear them, and they're like, oh, what are you guys doing? And so then they want to work out too. So, we do some squats and we do some push-ups and do some running and stuff like that. So just training them early to do those things and, have a active lifestyle, have some healthy habits. It's pretty fun. Like they get into it.
One of our wives, the one that's not here right now, Matt, his wife is actually, she was a CrossFit instructor. So she's planned some of our workouts that we've done, and hers always tend to be the hardest. And
they're never
made
fun.
some people throw up before, and she beats us a lot of times in those workouts. But and then Kendall,
my wife's a runner.
Yeah,
like hit the trails. I think
we got more and more in common, man. My wife's a runner too, and she tears me to pieces. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I can't keep up.
I try to tell her like it's my asthma acting up, and she like doesn't believe me. But no, yeah, so, I'm right there with you.
So we were doing some runs over the summer, right? And we were like sending each other screenshots of our running apps and just showing how far we went and what time we went. And then Andrew sends something like 8 miles in, I don't know, some ridiculous time.
Immediately got called out. They're like, that's your wife for sure. There's no way that's you. And it was right. It was not me.
Dude. Yeah, no, last 2 Saturdays ago, I'm trying to do this thing where every other Saturday I got a Whoop strap, and I've had that for the last few months, and basically measures like 6 or 7 different like variables of my fitness or whatever, and like heart rate and distance and things that I run, whatever. And I'm trying to do this thing where I run at 80% heart rate for an hour and a half, and I did it last Saturday. And my wife had to literally come pick me up.
That doesn't sound fun at all.
And I know it's brutally cold in Ohio. This was just like Kentucky cold. Like Ohio, I know that I probably would have died out there, but regardless. But yeah, the only reason I asked that about, what is conversations like with the family and fitness is because me and my wife, she played soccer in college, and I do mixed martial arts and jiu-jitsu and stuff like that. So whenever
same person,
you guys literally are the same exact person.
Do you do jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, I love some jiu-jitsu.
Get out of here.
Give him a couple of the other similarities that you talked about before we started recording. Because
like, where do you
honeymoon babies here, things like that.
I'm a blue belt, my guy. What do you how long you been doing it?
So I've been out for a little bit. So me and my brother-in-law would do it for a while. So I would go in. So I would probably be around there with some of the guys that I've rolled with that like I can kind of hang with them, probably in the blue belt area. So I'm not like amazing or anything, but I love that. Love the sport.
You can tap a guy out like the best of them.
Yeah.
Throwing an arm bar on somebody.
That was something that I actually, I did it all through high school, and then I took a few years off, but just being able to relate to like the be fit sort of pillar that you guys talk about, it's really, and you'll be able to explain this. It is more than just kind of fitness for me. Like it's almost like a form of meditation because it's a really calming thing to be able to practice self-defense over and over and over and to kind of mentally feel prepared. Like, you know, as a provider or protector of your family, you know, it's like if I'm facing the mountain, it really doesn't matter how many push-ups I can do. But if I know how to throw a triangle choke on him, like I'll feel just a little bit better in the situation. Not that it would help, he'd still crush me, but
I feel you on that. And that's where you start, you feel like that flow and there's like a sequence of movements and different positions that and as you get familiar with that, you can, transition between different moves. And then you really get to feel like that art aspect to a martial art. And you get to see it for something a little bit deeper than just trying to take somebody out or beat somebody up or whatever, that somebody might see if they're just looking at UFC for the first time. You can kind of see beyond that and see some of that actual art to it and the way that the sequence of moves works together. So I'm a big fan of jiu-jitsu.
You just got really nerdy there on the martial arts stuff. I love it.
No, dude, seriously. I mean, it's so true. Like after you do it for a while, there's like a sense of calm that like kind of comes over you a little bit, like as far as thinking about everyday life situations. I know you know what I'm talking about. It's a good feeling for sure. But
I know I just said that because there's a couple things you can tell when Andrew starts to talk, his voice gets a little deeper because he gets serious into it. It's either martial arts or it's finance stuff
or spreadsheets,
investments.
Spreadsheets.
If you like putting tables in Excel, I mean, we might be brothers.
Yeah, no, that's the one thing I don't know is Excel.
We draw the line there.
That's where we draw the line.
Before you wrap up the Be Fit pillar, here's the leader of our Be Fit pillar, Matt Simmons.
Here comes Matt Simmons.
Here Matt, here, say hi.
What's going on?
Matt Simmons, welcome to the show.
Let him see his mustache.
That is a rocking mustache.
I haven't gotten that type of feedback around here, so I appreciate that.
There you go. It's not Tom Selleck's level, but it's still a good mustache. It's more Carrie Elways from The Princess Bride, but
it is growing a little thicker every year, so it's getting a little better than it used to be.
Matt,
he's going to jump in here, get his microphone hooked up.
Sweet. Well, Matt, we were just discussing, some of the 4 pillars. We already went over Be Chill, and we were talking about Be Fit, and they said your wife is the one that puts together the workouts that puts everyone in a hospital.
He'll be here in a second to answer that.
She certainly does. She puts the real workouts together, and I try not to rely on her all the time, but every once in a while, she gives us a gem. So,
did you instruct CrossFit as well, or is that was just something that she did?
No, she actually got into CrossFit first. And so one of her friends invited her to a class. So we started doing that. She did it first, and then I eventually gave in and went to the gym with her. And then, we just did it together really when we were kind of young, married, met a lot of people. It was a pretty cool, season of life before we had kids. And then once we had kids, all of our time kind of went out the window and ended up building the home gym. So
they're expecting their first child. So you're good.
Are you?
You guys keep saying when we were young and then we had kids, and I've got a kid on the way. Like, is there some sort of?
I don't know. We keep saying that. I don't know if that's like out there. You can cut out all that because I mentioned. I was like, I don't know if that was supposed to be on the podcast or not. If you were,
for sure. No, it's out there. We already announced it and everything, and did the baby photo on Instagram and stuff. And
nice.
Everybody's like, you're going to be such a good dad, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I'm more scared than anything else. I'm going to set up a GoFundMe. Like, that's the main issue right now.
Dude, that's awesome. I was listening to your podcast earlier. You're like newly married though.
Oh yeah. Yeah. We got married in October, and it just like your brother over there to the far left, it's a honeymoon baby. I mean,
oh wow. What a gem.
What day in October here? Because we're October 3rd.
Oh, y'all got married October 3rd?
October 3rd, yeah.
We got married October 24th.
No. Okay.
Literally, just come down and hang out whenever you want, man. Like,
living like parallel lives here.
Another similarity was what he asked what his favorite, bourbon is, being as he's down in Kentucky, and I was like, oh, it's Angel's Envy, right? Yeah, he said he worked at Angel's Envy. So
No way.
Yeah.
they got lots of similarities going on.
We both of our wives are named Laura. We got
Holy
that.
crap. That's awesome.
Oh.
And yeah, man, there's a lot of similarities going on here. But yeah, we were peeling apart the, be fit pillar and talking about jiu-jitsu and mixed martial arts and stuff like that, and all the different aspects of fitness. But I guess moving on to the other pillar, and this is kind of the one that so you got be driven. Be driven is obviously I don't think it takes a lot for a testosterone filled man to get driven about something, and y'all can peel that apart here in a second. But the one thing that for me, this day and age, where just getting together with my group of guys, getting together in a Bible study, analyzing the social fabric of our country right now and just the world that we live in, be noble is something that it's obviously a value that, or a trait that isn't valued as much as it should be. And to me, it seems especially because I've got a child on the way, I'm constantly thinking about what the challenge is going to be like to, raise my kid rightly in this world and show them what the real values are to have in this world. So being noble, just wherever y'all want to start, but it just seems like that's going to be a pillar that runs deep.
Yeah, I'd say for the be noble pillar, we wanted to bring in that aspect. We all know those guys that are, I think we said it before, they're maybe all about work, and you just tell they're not afraid to step on somebody to get to the next rung of the ladder. They're not afraid to do things that are kind of shady to close a deal or whatever it is. So we wanted to incorporate that aspect of, once we've been driven, once we've got our dad bods taken care of, once we've done some of these other things, how are we giving back? What are we putting out into the community? How are we doing good things, for society around us or for our family in particular as well too. So we wanted to incorporate that pillar and just look at, what are ways that we can give back? How can we volunteer? How can we work through our church? How can we use our money and our time and our treasure and be able to put that back into the community and make good things come for those that are around us. Maybe it's people that are needy. Maybe it's people that are, just within our family that we already love and know, but looking for ways that we can give back in that way.
Yeah. And obviously the pillar for us is grounded on our faith, but even from a secular perspective, we want to look at how can you improve the lives of people around you. So, if somebody's listening to the podcast and they're not a Christian, but they're intrigued by the bourbon or the fitness or, what have you, we want to give options that, might include just giving back to the community. And maybe they'll see that as an avenue to understanding more about God and how he gives so much to us and how we can let that flow through us to be an outpouring to the rest of the world. So, we want to make it easy to approach, but also deep enough that people can go further with it.
Mm-hmm. So, are you about to say something?
No, yeah, agreeing with Ryan. We struggled on this one a little bit when we were coming up with our pillars because we obviously weren't going to hide from the fact that we were Christians and that was going to be the backbone behind everything that we talked about. But we didn't want this to just be another Christian podcast where we were just talking to Christian men. We definitely want that to be part of it because those are the circles that we go in, and we want to appeal to those husbands and fathers who are going through some of the same struggles and challenges that we are. But we also wanted it to be appealing to the non-Christian man to listen to for those reasons that Ryan just said, and that's where we came up with, instead of doing a faith pillar, we did the noble pillar to incorporate some more of that into it, while obviously still talking about our faith behind it.
Yeah, that's been something that's kind of plagued me for a while because I'm basically on the same page as you guys. This is a Christian podcast. It's faith-based. I'm looking at life through the lens of the gospel, basically. But I'm not limiting myself to simply just talking to just Christian people about just Christian things. I've got a desire in me to, talk to people who, have significant stories to tell, or are experts in their field, or they're trying to bless the world in one way or another. But the thing that has stumped me for the longest time is like, how do I have this conversation that it's okay to have conversations with people outside of, your church walls about things that you can talk about that are, as your pillar says, to be noble and stuff, like to talk about things that are good, and to give a Christian perspective on like what that is, that's been the thing that's kind of, plagued me for a while. And that's probably even more so, the reason that I don't have, 3 other guys with me on this podcast is because, and I don't know how old you guys are. You sound like you're in your 30s.
Yeah. Mid to late 30s.
Y'all aren't old. Like, y'all are barely older than me. But like, truth be told, my buddies and I, we have conversations like this all the time. But the hard part is that we're afraid to have conversations like this and for it to be out in the ether where people can listen and hold us accountable. You know what I mean? There's, something about putting your beliefs and your thoughts and your ideas out there, where in today's age, the world is getting a little bit more, aggressive about, whose side are you on? What do you believe?
Yeah. That was one of the, so we've done, Meet the Core 4 podcast. We've done 3 of them. So myself, Mike, and Andrew have gone, and then Matt's will be released next month. And that, that was one of the kind of scariest things that I've done is putting my story out there. So it's, the story of brokenness and a story of faith and a story of redemption, and just putting that out there for people to see it. And obviously we push this out to my friends from high school, my friends from college, and just getting over that fear of what are people going to think about me, and instead say, this is my story, this is how God has used my life, and it's a masterpiece whatever God does. So sharing that and being vulnerable in those certain areas where it's impacted my life can help people who are maybe going through the same thing.
Yeah, and I mean, I think simply put, too, it's like we don't have everything figured out in this life, that's for sure. But we do have one thing figured out, and that's that we all have grace, and we're not deserving of it at all. And that is enough for us to be able to keep motivated to do those other things and stay up with these other pillars and try to get better at that stuff, because we know that we've been given a gift here that, again, we didn't deserve.
And I think that's one thing that we've kind of learned as we've done it, and we've interviewed people, is that like everybody's on a faith journey to some extent, and obviously we've interviewed a lot of our friends and family that are Christians and are coming from that same background and that same lens of seeing the world, like you said, but they have those journeys, those experiences that are universal in some ways, or that when you can share it, if somebody's been through cancer and they relied on God and had their faith strengthened through that experience, that's something that is easy to share then with other people, to give them an idea of how did you deal with this circumstance? How did you get through this? And we thought that was an approachable way to kind of share our faith and have other people share their stories and put that out there.
Well, so, speaking along the lines of that, sharing testimonies, being bold about nobility, being bold about, what you believe and where you come from, being able to talk about this online or with a group of guys, obviously, like, that can be challenging, but also freeing. But now, and this is just kind of me more asking questions to you guys for my own sake, but what are these conversations like with your family or with your kids? Like to be somebody who openly on the internet is putting their belief system out there and then standing up for what they believe to be true. you're going to have to combat a lot of things, that your children are going to grow up and experience, and you're going to have to set the record straight. What is that like for you guys as far as, standing true to these pillars?
So I think from my perspective, the best teaching mechanism that I've seen for my kids is to just do that thing, to be an example. And so by the fact that they see that I'm making this podcast with my friends, that we're talking about God, we're talking about Jesus, we're talking about all this stuff that needs to be talking about. We're working out together. We're building this business together, and we're having fun together. Just being an example and showing that we're not afraid to do it, that we're not afraid to go out there and express our faith. So for my kids, I feel like that's one of the ways that they pick things up, that they learn the best.
Yeah, and I mean, we're all unashamedly gonna approach it that way as far as the gospel in our lives, because yeah, you see everything going on right now, and there's so much divisiveness in the world today that some people are going to look at Christians and be like, well, you're judgmental or whatever, and we obviously are going to make sure that we're not that way when we're talking with people and having those conversations. But we're obviously, there's a lot of bad stuff going on, so if we can shed a little bit of light in that way, then that's great. As far as kids go, like Ryan said, I mean, if we're just teaching that and just saying all of those things, and it ends up just being talk, and your kids probably end up rebelling in a big way if we're not acting it out ourselves. So I think that is definitely something that we can fall into a trap, and just, especially, I mean, our kids are all young. I mean, Vance, Andrew he's the oldest, at 10 years old. I mean, all the rest of our kids, I think mine is the oldest at 7. So
my twins are 7 too.
Yeah. So right now it is just a lot of, hey, Jesus loves you. He lives in your heart. You have to do this. You have to do that. We're trying to teach them how to just, listen right now. But hopefully, as they continue to grow older, we can act it out more and not just tell them, because that's going to end up hitting a brick wall.
I was thinking the same thing, kind of along those lines, Mike. Like, when we put this out here, like in a lot of ways, like this is a check on myself, like, against hypocrisy in a lot of ways. Like if I'm out there, putting on the internet all these things I believe, and at home I'm not doing any of that, like that's, it's a way like to check me. And like I think we all take that approach. Like we're not perfect. We don't have all the answers. Like we know one thing. We know the gospel, and we know we all need it, and we all need that grace, and we all need forgiveness. But if I'm going to be talking about that, like when I mess up at home, like I better darn sure apologize to my kids when I yell at them, or I better, treat my wife, with respect that she deserves, and teach my kids how to do that as well. So in a lot of ways, like the more that we put out there, and like when we talked about our own stories and that kind of thing, like it just made it more, the need to be drawing on Christ for your strength, and to be real with that, and to be accountable with each other. Like when we mess up, like we need to confess that. Like you need to bring that kind of stuff out into the light, so that you don't have a whole bunch of skeletons in your closet that are going to come out eventually. Because we all know people that, maybe they're pastors or something like that have failed and have, a moral failure that's very public, and brings their church down or whatever. So I know we've all seen that. So I think in some ways, as we started to kind of put this out here more, like it was a check on ourselves that, hey, we need to be accountable. We need to be doing what we need to in our private life, and having devotion time, kind of all those things, so that we aren't being hypocrites and putting stuff out here that we're really not even going to practice ourselves.
Yeah. Well, tackling, world issues or things that are sensitive like that. I literally just had a conversation with a buddy of mine. He was the college age pastor at my church, and now he's my church is a multi-site church, and so he's the lead pastor of the newest site that they have here in Louisville. But I mean, I pulled him aside one day because I'm 26, he's 29 or 30. And I was like, listen, man, I'm going to lock arms with you guys, and I'm going to help you guys build up this site as much as possible. But the truth is, dude, whether we like it or not, these politically charged issues are entering the church, whether we like it or not.
Mhm.
And I'm not like saying like what if we find ourselves on like the different end of an issue by some chance, I promise you, bro, I love you. But how are we going to do this? How are we going to talk about this? You know, like how are we going to like say, okay, you know, this thing did happen. I'm not going to act like it didn't happen because everybody on Facebook seems to have an opinion on it. So I mean, you guys have a very specific platform. It's not just social media. So, I mean, I'm not, you know, thinking you guys are going to fling something on Facebook into the ether, but on here, you guys have the chance to peel apart some of these things. How do you guys go about doing that? What do you guys like? What's your approach to these world issues?
Well, what are some that have we tackled any that you guys can think of? I mean, I think a little bit of race, maybe it touched on race.
Talked on
Yeah.
that with your brother-in-law.
Yeah, I mean, our
That might
church,
be a
our
good
church
example.
does a lot of that, and it's pretty simple as far as the message. I'm trying to sum it up in the ways that they do, but ultimately, it's all of those. It's being. I'm trying to think what they say. It being strong in the core beliefs of your faith and what we know, but in the other things, yeah, everybody's going to have different opinions on certain matters that are not biblically focused. You know, there's nothing in the Bible about being a Democrat or a Republican, right? You know, and they're, you know, so and obviously the political issues can stem into a lot of different other topics that essentially always for us comes back to, all right, well, what does the Bible say? You know, how does that impact our life and our faith? And, you know, how do we approach it then in a loving way in that conversation with somebody who might be disagreeing with us? You know, it always comes back to that, showing love, but ultimately showing the truth that we know to be from the Bible.
Yeah, I think to sum that up, you know, in one word, it would be grace. So to exhibit the grace for somebody to have a difference of opinion, but to still love that person. And yeah, it's true. Like I might not agree with you on this topic, but you know what? God calls us to not only love our friends, but to also love our enemies and to especially love our enemies. So like there are things that we can differ in opinion on that, you know, we might not even be enemies. It's just a difference of opinion, but we still are called to love those people. So I think reminding yourself of that word grace, and just to have that, the grace that God has shown us, to try to reflect that onto the other people that we're talking to.
Yeah, man, you're exactly right. And to be honest, I won't get into the details of who here, but there's two people that are very close in my life that are both, I know, 100% strong Christian people. And, you know, the one I share the same opinion with, the other one I completely disagree with. And yet I still love them, still know that they're very much still following God's word and what he has for them in their life. Whereas the other person who shares my opinion would say that that person's crazy and there's no way that they can be a Christian and believe that, you know? So even though I share an opinion and completely disagree, you know, they can come at it from completely different angles from where they're coming from based on just a hot topic issue, you know, and it's just, you got to be careful as a Christian because you can get caught up too much with some of those topics and politics and things like that, where yes, it's important and we need to have some of the knowledge of what's going on. But at the end of the day, we ultimately know that we're not in control, and whoever's going to be in presidency, or whatever the topic might be, we can't ultimately control that. At the end of the day, we can only control the thing that we know.
Yeah.
I think we haven't really felt. I haven't felt super pressured that we have to react to a lot of the media or even, you know, current events always, because they they pass quickly a lot of times.
Mm-hmm.
So something that we're even talking about, you know, we record and we may not release it for a month. In a month, some of the stories that we would think are relevant right now are way in the past. So even just timing wise, it doesn't make sense. But that's also, you know, we're not trying to tackle issues or talk about things that are you know, important today and not important tomorrow. We're talking about things that are more a little bit
important for eternity.
Yeah, important for eternity, or just things that aren't, I don't know, news related or just hot topics.
Yeah.
We're not trying to stay on front of those things. I'd like to put out a podcast. I think we all would, that you can go back, 3 years from now, and you're going to get the same value because it's still applicable. So we're not trying to, to ride some wave of a hot topic to get more people to be interested. It's like, no, if you go back and you listen to our podcast where we had, someone on, we talked about parenting, like it's going to be good advice 2 years from now too. It's not going to be too topic driven, I guess.
Well, literally bringing that up just now, talking about parenting, I was going to say, do you feel like the particular method, style, or thought process when it comes to parenting that maybe y'all would have gone about doing back in the 2000s is different today? And I'm speaking specifically because of the way the world is now, and not for any political issues, but it's like, so here's just a very small example. I remember riding on planes and going through airports before 9/11. And I know what riding on planes and going through airports is like now after 9/11. People, I knew what it was like to live before this pandemic, and who knows what it's going to look like to live after this pandemic. Are you guys seeing anything that you feel like is going to have to be different about the way you guys parent your kids going into this future?
That's a great question.
That's a really good question.
Yeah. I think we're just learning as we go, man. I don't know. Who knows what things are going to be like in even 5 years from now?
I think to your point, though, things are happening a lot sooner for children now. They're getting exposed to a lot more stuff a lot earlier. And so I like that's constantly on my mind is, how are we going to address those things? Some of the topics that like the gender theory and stuff like that. And obviously we're going to come at it from a certain perspective, but we need to explain, kind of why we believe that and what other people believe. So yeah, that's constantly on my mind. And like Mike said, it's just something that we're just always thinking through. Like, man, and that's funny that you mentioned the going on the airplane thing, because I've never thought of that before. Like my kids have never experienced like air travel where they can just like walk up to the plane pretty much and people just wait for you at the gate. Like, and just thinking of all the other things like that have changed in the world. But the world has been changing for thousands of years. And I think it's just a matter of praying about it, of having a group of guys or girls, whoever you have to bounce ideas off of, and just implementing to the best of your ability.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's be honest. I mean, all of these hot topics are so hot because of social media, right? I mean, I'll just say, like, I hate social media, and I know that there's a lot of good that can come from it. And I know as a podcaster, you got to kind of use it in order to promote certain things. But I mean, shoot, how much has social media caused all of this stuff to be so dramatized, and it's just crazy to me to see, and I'm hoping it almost gets so bad that like people are like, yeah, everybody's like, yeah, this is bad, we got to shut down social media. And
I think I have a bold prediction for the future.
Oh, here we go, Matt. That's bold prediction.
Like, it's going to swing the other way at some time.
Sure,
I feel like there's going to be a younger generation that's going to go like,
just not
what are you idiots
like
doing?
Times.
Like, why are you sharing your entire life on the internet? Why would I ever do that? Like, I think eventually it could swing the other way. Doesn't seem like it now.
You want to throw out a year for your prediction so we can go back and.
Do you all have 2021 predictions?
Man, I'm not predicting.
I hope right when my boys are in high school
age.
Aliens in 2021. Yeah. The CIA declassified those documents, man. You've been browsing through those?
Dude, I will go down a rabbit hole.
Oh man.
I got to keep it out of the workplace, but I will seriously, my wife will be asleep and I'll be at 1:30 in the morning, just looking through doomsday prepper like material.
Hey, we got a prepper over here.
Yeah, I'm a casual prepper. Casual
Seriously.
prepper.
Yeah.
If you want, I like a podcast called Casual Preppers. I listen to it occasionally. It's like the perfect for like, like I don't have a bunk or anything.
Yeah.
But but I think it's pretty cool to pack like a bug out bag and throw it in your car. So
That's legit.
yeah, it's fun.
I'd say maybe one more thing back on the kids section here. I think just the last couple years just reminded me of the importance of just grounding your kids like in scripture, because the cultural sands are always shifting, and sometimes that's kind of to maybe to your side and what you believe, and sometimes that's away from that. And to not be afraid if your kids ask questions, like it's important for us to know those reasons and be able to be grounded in scripture, and then ground them in scripture, and be able to have a conversation with them, because they're going to want to know why, and be like, hey, my friend doesn't think that's correct. Like, why do we think that? Or why do you think that?
Right.
And be able to actually talk through that. It's like, we need to, more than maybe the generation or two before us, that it was just like, you just took it for granted. Everybody believed the same as you, and you just kind of rolled with that. Now it's just not the case. Like, some of our good friends might believe very different things than us, or might not be Christians at all. And we need to be able to root our kids in scripture and teach them that, and then give them the answers to those questions as well. So we need to know probably more than we needed to, because our culture is all over the place in terms of what is right or what is wrong, or what's being encouraged to do or discouraged. So it's more and more important for us to root our kids in that than maybe it has been in the past too. So that's one thing that I've for sure noticed.
I think that's a good point, and that's something that I didn't really ask. Those questions, those aren't questions that I ask until I was much older.
Yeah.
So I would rather have that open dialogue with my kids and say, do you have any questions about why God is like this, or about why we believe this? And to have them ask those questions now, or a couple years down the road, so that they're prepared to have those answers, but also to know that they've asked the questions, so that they can have a reason for their faith, like we're called to have a reason for our faith.
Right.
And yeah, that's a great point.
Like
Andrew.
you said, like just culturally, like a lot of that stuff that we weren't maybe asking about, they're going to ask it 4 or 5 years maybe before it was even on our radar, just because of the exposure they have through social media or YouTube or whatever. So that's just knowing they're going to get exposed to that kind of stuff, and they're going to have questions probably a lot earlier than we are. Like, we got to be ready to have those conversations with them, and not be shocked maybe that they're exposed to some of this stuff that wasn't even on our radar for a while.
Yeah. Well, see, that's the thing that, I mean, they are going to get exposed, because it's like you already, I mean, you just mentioned talking about the gender studies and like what they're going to teach about in health class and stuff like that. I mean, to me, it's just like, I know what I'm going to be able to like, I know what I'm going to reference, and I know where I'm going to point my kids back to. But the thing is like, at what point in time do I get ahead of this thing, and do I address this thing? Because I wasn't exposed to these things till I could drive, and like till we like had a flat screen phone that showed us all these things. And like, I got a 2-year-old nephew who knows more about an iPad than I do. So it's like, where do we start?
Yeah. When is she due? That's
so my wife is due July 22nd, but
July 23rd then.
yeah.
That's what like. I remember running into that with our kids too. Is maybe my oldest son is friends with the youngest child of somebody else. Like, that kid's going to have older siblings that already have a phone, or is already exposed and might be exposing their younger. So like, thinking through that with even just like the friend groups, and just being aware of that type of dynamic now, I think is a lot different than when we were growing up, just because, any of that stuff's out there at the click of a button.
Yeah.
For all kind of number of topics that you're going to have to be ready to talk about with your kids.
And I think, to address the question of when do you start, I think, like Mike said, it does start immediately. You need to build that kind of relationship with your children where they can come to you with those questions, to feel open and, to be able to be vulnerable and to ask questions that, any question is fair game. So if you build a relationship like that, and if you exhibit that type of behavior with you and your spouse, then in the future, when they see something that or see something or hear something that brings up those questions in their head, they might not just let it sit there. They might bring it out to you so that you can address it and start to have that dialogue with them about those topics that obviously we probably weren't thinking about at that age.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Well, gentlemen, I think for one, it's encouraging to me that, a group of dads and, husbands and, fathers, you guys are willing to get together and completely put everything out there in a way that people are they notice that you're being vulnerable enough to relate on these topics where, maybe somebody might not feel comfortable going to their immediate community about it because they didn't know they were welcomed to, be able to talk about these things. So I think it's really cool. But typically what I do after I've asked the real personal bulk questions is I like to get into the, the 2021 predictions or the fun questions. You know what I mean? So
bring it on, man. Sounds fun.
2020 was crazy. 2021 might even be crazier. Matt, it seems like you already have a forecast of what's going on here. So let's start with you. What do you think?
I think I'm going to have the best mustache that I've ever had.
You're already there, man.
Done.
No, I want 2021 to be normal and really just for more people. I was thinking about this earlier. Looking back on 2020, and I don't know, maybe I'll get hated for this, but I had a great year.
No hate, man.
I didn't want it. I
started an awesome podcast. I mean, what more could you want?
And part of it's I'm in a great stage with my family. My relationship with my wife's going well, right? I'm just in a good phase right now, I feel like, and I want that to continue. So that's what I'm looking forward to, and I want I hate this year. Last year, one of the things that really irritated me was just the 2020 excuses. And I'm hoping a lot of people, and this will be my prediction, that a lot of people are going to say, man, I had a lot of excuses last year and I didn't do a lot of things that I wanted to and I should have been doing. And I'm ready. I need to get back on track and start pushing towards, basically just getting back on track with your goals, with your, I'm tired of excuses and want to move on. So,
yeah, we tripped over ourselves. So it's time to get back to, I know exactly what you mean. I got a lot of friends still collecting unemployment and I'm like, you're all right. You're okay. I'm like, I already had it. It's just a mild headache, I promise. But what about the rest of y'all? What do y'all think's going down this year?
Do you have anything? I predict travel stocks will rise.
That's right. Some finance predictions.
He's hoping. He's hoping.
As soon as that vaccine gets around more, people are going to start traveling again. Buy travel stocks.
Yeah, buy travel stocks.
Buy a recommendation.
Spaces.
Here's a politically charged question: What are y'all doing the vaccine? Y'all gonna?
I don't think. I feel we're not in the prime population to get it. Really,
not yet.
So not yet.
I don't think it's going to come around to our age bracket for another 2 years.
Long time.
So.
It seems like. Yeah.
I don't know you bald guys. I think you guys are going to get it earlier. That's one of the
just because we don't have hair.
Pre-existing
follicle condition. I know my brother's a first responder. He's a firefighter. He ended up getting it. I think you got to get. It's two. You got to get two different ones. So he ended up getting it. I think you get one shot and then it's 2 weeks and you get another one. So it's a 2-step process.
I didn't know that.
For the vaccine. Yeah. Or maybe that's the Pfizer one.
You're right.
Is it for both?
I think it's for both of them.
I think it's for Pfizer and for the
other
one. So I personally, I'm probably won't get it here for a little bit still. I'm not against it. I don't think like by any means. I like to let other people kind of try things out first, though, especially injecting things in their body that hasn't
Especially
been tested a ton.
Rushed developed vaccine.
So I'm usually the one that would kind of hold out on something like that and probably not be the first one out of the gate to try it.
Yeah.
I've never done a flu shot before.
You're so healthy.
You know, I don't know. I guess I don't have a super big opinion on it right now. I'm not Mr. Conspiracy Theory, I guess, overall, and thinking that government's microchipping us or something with this vaccine, or I don't know. But
Bill Gates,
Bill
is,
Gates,
right?
man.
Bill Gates,
Bill Gates
who
is
knows? So yeah, I guess we'll see what happens, and we'll talk to people. I'll talk to people that I trust, and we'll dialogue through it, because I don't think the Bible really ever said anything about vaccines, or that's one of those topics where you just gotta figure it out as we go. That's my prediction for
Is there
2021.
Pfizer or Merck mentioned in the Bible?
Yeah. What does Pfizer say? Yeah.
I will
I
say,
did have last time in December, I sold Moderna stock because I was like, vaccine stocks, these are going to take forever to come around. Sure enough, they're the ones that came out with COVID vaccine.
Oh, that's
I missed out on a little bit of money on that one.
oh geez, yeah, no, I'm still asking like doctor friends or medical people, and I'm getting pretty middle of the aisle type stuff. But I will say I met more anti-vaxxers in my church than I knew like actually existed.
Like not just COVID, like all vaccines.
They're like these closet anti-vaxxers are just coming out of the woodworks. Like they're here to prophesy over us. Like it's insane. I've got people sending me like documents, and they're like, you should tell people about this on your podcast. And I'm like, let me just, let me read it first. But it's like on like how this one lady sent me something, and it was literally over Facebook Messenger too, because that's where you get all those videos too. But she sent me this thing where somebody had like video evidence of somebody getting a vaccine shot, and then this guy who worked for the government had this remote that emitted this sound frequency, and it made this person like walk backwards, and like they like couldn't do anything about it.
That sounds totally legit. Why didn't you want to bring that on?
You definitely need to share that video though, for sure.
That's not a vaccine.
If I can find it, but I was like, I don't know if I want even Mark Zuckerberg to know this is in my messenger.
Yeah, I don't think they got shot with a vaccine. I think that was more LSD or something.
Maybe
like that.
like a stage hypnotist.
Seriously. But well, 2021 hopefully gets a lot better. To I don't know. Did the other two guys? Did you guys get to give your 2021 predictions?
I don't know if I did mine yet. I'll say this is more of a hope as well too. I just hope my kids are back in regular school and not homeschool while I'm at work, and doing both at the same time has just been nuts. So I predict they do go back to school. Maybe once all the teachers get the vaccine or something like that. I don't know. That is my hope and my prediction, at least for the new semester.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we're talking about ourselves again, like Matt, I mean, yeah, 2020, a lot of people went through a lot of stuff, and I'd say ultimately we were pretty good. I mean, we were fine. We got through everything. Yeah, there were some challenges, and we dealt with a lot of changes in where I work, but ultimately a lot of positive things that should be very positive going into 2021, and not just work, but also in personal life and other circles. It's a lot of things that you got to reevaluate and figure out, hey, we've been doing something the same way for a long time, and maybe it wasn't the best way to do that, and we got to rethink some things. So, I think there's going to be a lot of that this year, of seeing some of that really come into fruition, and it should be some good developments. But ultimately, my prediction was things are unpredictable, and I'm not surprised by anything anymore that's going to happen in this in the United States, for sure. I mean, who knows? So
yeah,
and I hope, like Matt's prediction, hopefully this has made people more resilient, a little tougher, a little thicker skin. Doesn't seem like that if you look at social media, but I'm hoping like once like a mass amount of people have gone through something like difficult, like you talk to like grandparents who have been through like the depression. They're like, yeah, it was nuts. Like, not food, like all these things, and like how much tougher that made them just as people in general. It
Right.
doesn't seem like we're trending towards that at all, but that would be my hope. So I don't know if Matt and I took a more positive note than
I think
maybe expected, but
one of the best things to come out of the pandemic is that people realize that you have to wash your hands like occasionally.
Oh yeah.
Personal hygiene.
Yeah, like I think that's a good thing that might have come out of the pandemic.
Well, it's for sure been demonized, like when you don't do it, or like if you like if someone sees you touch something dirty and then you don't try to clean your hands, everybody's like, dude, where are we? Where are we right now? Well,
trying to take us all out.
yeah, seriously. More fun questions though. Getting into, I do this with every guest. Well, let me start off with this. Books are important, obviously, and me and my buddies in my Bible study, we're all recommending each other different books. But if you guys had to list out your top 3 favorite books, or let's just do favorite book for each core member here, what books would y'all recommend?
I'm just going to mention one right now. This isn't even on that list or favorite book, but we were just talking about the 2021 predictions and things that just popped in my head. I'm reading Unbroken right now.
Good book.
And I would say a good word for our society and culture is soft. I mean, I just think about like back in those times and war times, and you said the depression. That's when I started thinking about this. Everybody going through a challenge. How are people going to react? And I mean, you just see the softness from people now. Like I can't. Everything was so different back then, and what people had to deal with. And yeah, we all have challenges now in certain ways, but man, it just feels like we're a soft society. Like
Yeah.
we gotta step up a little bit in a lot of different ways. And that's one. Yeah, just reading that and listening to some of the things that they went through. Like, I mean, if you were they were talking about like, yeah, with people were shutting down their homes, blackening out their curtains, like nobody's working, no one's doing it. Like it's like everyone's shutting down because they might get bombed. Your 18, 19-year-olds are getting drafted to go, in the front lines in the army to go fight. Like it was hard times.
Yeah.
We're dealing with a flu, step
Yeah.
up. I mean, jeez.
No, seriously. No, you're absolutely right. But yeah, drop the mic. But yeah, so so Unbroken, that's a book that you've been reading. What would be your number one book of all time?
Whew, yeah. I mean, the Bible, the cheesy answer,
Oh,
but
there you go. Yeah.
This guy.
no, yeah, that's
You get it. You get it already.
yeah, that guy. I liked. Man, I don't know if this would be my favorite. It just came to my head though. I really did like that. Seeking Allah, Finding Jesus. I mean, that's a big just to see someone, because I'm not a big theological person. I'm not going to be the guy that has a big intellectual conversation with you about that kind of thing. But to see somebody struggle through that from a Muslim perspective to come to faith by trying to essentially prove Christianity wrong. And he was a super smart intellectual person. And to see him dive into all of that and what he had to go through and face to completely turn away from his Muslim faith and his family and everything he'd ever known, I mean, was very eye-opening to me. Like, hey, if he can do that, like, we can do anything.
Yeah.
Yes,
Actually, I did just watch that.
Yeah.
I actually did just I saw his lecture on YouTube, and it was like basically his whole sermon and stuff. And I actually had no idea who that guy was until this last year, and that was probably one of the more encouraging things of 2020 for me. Was like, I don't know, just listening to that testimony. That is a real solid book.
Yeah.
That's one that I was going to mention actually.
Stole it.
But then there's so read a book actually in CLC. One of the first ones that we read was The Pursuit of God by Tozer, A.W. Tozer. And so that's not an easy read, but I think that he has some incredible perspective on God and just the the magnitude of his grace, the magnitude of his glory, that really resonated. I think there's some pretty quotable things in that book, and it's always stuck with me. So that's up there.
Yeah.
But then I'm a big apologetics guy, so I get into a lot of that stuff. So William Lane Craig, I just listened to his podcast. Ben Shapiro had him on his podcast, and it was
I think he did stellar on that podcast, by the way.
it was fantastic. Yeah, I just finished listening to that today, actually, and just hearing him talk about that. But his book On Guard is really great for just providing those arguments, kind of those reasons for our faith. If you get into a conversation with somebody who's kind of head versus heart, who doesn't believe some of the things that the Bible says, or believe the veracity of the crucifixion, death, and resurrection of Christ. A lot of ways to combat some of those arguments, or to at least question those arguments. So, great book.
Dude, two things you need to do since you're into William Lane Craig. First off, I think he did awesome on Ben Shapiro, especially peeling apart Isaiah chapter 53. I think that was one of the just best displays of that I ever heard, especially with an intellectual like Ben Shapiro. But first, you need to watch his debate with Christopher Hitchens at Biola University.
I've seen that one. Yeah,
oh
that's
my
fantastic.
Yeah. That was fantastic. And then also he has an app called Reasonable Faith. And I don't know if y'all are familiar, but I've been listening to his lectures and just starting with his doctrine lecture, like the very, very first thing. And you want to talk about getting equipped. Like, that'll be that to me is like I get up at 5:30 in the morning to go to work, and that's my drive to work podcast. So that's I would definitely recommend that. But yeah, dude, I'll check that book out for sure.
Yeah, it's great.
I've been going through the Defenders series, so I think it's a part of that. The same doctrine, he's got this. I don't know how many years, but it's his Sunday school that he goes through, and just topic by topic. It also puts me to bed a little bit at times, but it's good stuff.
Oh, it gets dense. It for sure does. Like it gets pretty wordy, like large vocabulary and stuff like that. I didn't go to college, so sometimes I'll hit the pause button and look up a vocabulary word here and there.
We all do that.
So is that your favorite though? No, Defenders is on the app and everything, but
yeah, I was just looking at some of the books I've read. I'll mention one I haven't mentioned, and it was one of an important book, or a book I really liked. The Gospel Comes with a House Key. Ever heard of that book?
No.
Rosaria Butterfield is the author. She came and spoke at a local church, and my wife went and heard her. Has a really cool story. She was lesbian, and then ended up, and very much in the educational field, and then ended up, becoming a Christian really through a couple that just loved her well, and I think while she was on campus. And so, long story, but and she goes into that in another one of her books, kind of her personal story. But this book's more about how they use their home as a ministry. So relationships with neighbors, basically just having an open policy that people are coming over, that they're eating together, and really just living out ministry through their house. So it was challenging more than anything, as far as I feel like it's not American culture for us to just be open-handed. We can be private at times with our time, with our resources. And she has just an awesome open-handed approach. It's probably a book I should reread. I know it's one that I've given away, but it's one that would probably be good to touch in on and, kind of reflect on and see if I'm actually living it out.
Yeah. Actually a big subject of discussion for me and my wife. Obviously this podcast is, something that I'm passionate about. And I think, I would want it to inspire anybody that listens to it, and also hopefully educate them on the Lord. But my wife, she wants to do like a horse ranch ministry, and she wants to like help at-risk youth kids and bring them out there. But obviously we're just not in a place to buy an entire ranch and to do that. So kind of the thing that's been, making us capitulate a little bit is like, how are we going to have a ministry right now? And I think, just from what you described, it sounds like a good resource to kind of get into what it would look like to just do ministry right where you're at with what you got. And that's, that would be a big answer to a big question that we've had lately.
I think along those lines, if you want to get into that same topic, like read a Bob Goff book, like Love Does or Everybody Always.
Yeah.
And those are perfect examples of just being in the moment, loving the person. And
except he's got millions of dollars already to go do that.
He's got millions of dollars, but I think
He's got
always
dollars.
I don't think it wouldn't change. I mean, he'd still be doing the same
lessons.
thing.
Lessons are still
Not the
there.
same thing. There's
The
things
same things.
there's things that he does.
Flying
that
a
you
private
can't.
plane to a resort in Canada. Yeah.
The
Bob
concept is
Goff
great.
spoke at my church one time, and you want to talk about working a crowd. That dude riffs. And like,
You can tell in his books, he's just telling
Yeah.
stories. He's just a
that's what he does,
storyteller.
for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
but that's the thing too, is like, obviously Bob Goff is a high caliber person, right? And like, he's just gonna be made up of like something different than, you guys and me. Like, we're pretty even keeled dudes, so we're not gonna have this, energy that who knows what dimension it comes from to do the things that he does.
Yeah.
But like, at the same time, I'm like, okay, I think it's really awesome, that you've got this testimony and stuff. But at the same time, just hearing you talk, I don't think I'll ever be able to do that because you're just different,
Yeah.
But that's where it gets encouraging to hear guys like you and everything to be, even keeled dudes and saying, no, we can do this,
Well, for sure. And that's just the whole, everybody's got a platform, right? And everybody's got their own personality, and everyone's got their own purpose that God has called them for. So it's just a matter of how you're going to use that. So you're using it already, and you're trying to figure out ways to continue to grow that. That's what we're doing as well.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let me bring it home here. I obviously agree with all these books. I have On Guard. So a lot of these, I won't repeat everything you guys said, but so I'll go 2 here as well, since we ended up doubling what you told us to do.
We're not rule followers, apparently.
Yeah.
He started with 3, and then he said your favorite. So
Just
we
like,
met
go
in
to
the
your
middle.
favorite. I'm in the middle of 2. So I was going to say, just kind of with what we were thinking, the theme for society and stuff this year, and just like taking ownership, extreme ownership is like a book. I just read it last year, like really good on just like, stop making excuses, stop letting other people take the fall. Like, step up and make it happen, and do the work that you need to do to for what you want, like in life. So again, neither of these books are going to be like spiritually focused, but I just feel like overall in general,
Go different
I like
direction.
that one. We'll go a little different direction. And then one of my all-time favorites since high school was The Great Gatsby. So
Why
I
are
feel
we?
like it is.
Can you just move down here? Let's get an apartment together.
We
Like,
just become best friends.
so Great
I'll
Gatsby is
say-
the only book that I've read all the way through. Like, I do only
That's awesome.
audiobooks, but I read that Great Gatsby book cover to cover.
I feel like it's like the
Were you guys
epitome of like all the
split
things in the American
at
dream, and it's not going to satisfy you. So it's like
Right.
you're looking at like, like the opposite of what we're trying to do. Like, you can pursue a girl, you can try to go for money, your job, a huge house, throw parties, but in the end, it's not going to satisfy you. In the end, you're
So
going to die
end up dead in a
one way or another. You're going to die face
all
down in
die.
your pool.
Yeah.
But that's awesome. I love that you love that. So many similarities, but yeah, that's just always been one of my favorite books.
You guys going to get bunk beds and just
So
become
much-
best
I can't-
So
friends?
much room for activities.
we're gonna do like karate in the garage and everything.
Form a band.
We're gonna start our own podcast here, guys. Actually,
We're gonna
Jiu-jitsu Gatsby themed.
Do you guys want us to leave?
Yeah, I know. I'm feeling a little awkward. I'm gonna head out.
There we go. So there's my 2.
Cool. Well, 2 more fun questions and then we'll wrap it up. So we did favorite books. So what is each person's favorite movie if y'all have one?
Oh man,
Should go reverse order here.
I've got
You
4.
want me to go first? I'll narrow it down to 4 for
If
you.
you've got like a top 4 or whatever, just however many like favorite movies,
Just
but
throw a few at you.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like the Gladiator Braveheart combo.
That's 2 of my 4.
So good. Did I take 2? All right. There. So yours are in halves. Gladiator, Braveheart, great movies. I mean, I feel like if you're a dude, like you just have to see these
classics.
For sure.
classics.
Yeah.
Go.
Those are 2 of my 4. I'll throw a couple comedies in there that are still classics for me, which is Dumb and Dumber and Tommy Boy.
Oh my gosh, dude. Yeah.
Yep.
Freaking memorize those movies. I love
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I'll nerd it up for you.
Here we go.
I'll go
Star Wars.
I'll go A New Hope.
Yeah.
Although, actually, Empire Strikes Back is my favorite Star Wars movie. But then the Lord of the Ring series also.
Nice.
Fantastic.
Great movies.
Well, I need to ask you now, as a Star Wars fan, what do you think of the newest franchise?
I'm okay with it. Like I feel like they could have done a lot better with it, but I think, trying to throw was going to be 3 different directors, but ultimately 2 different directors at it was probably a bad choice. I think if they gave JJ the reins for all 3 movies, I think it could have turned out better. But
Do you think The Force Awakens was a good start?
I think it was a little weak because it was just a retelling of A New Hope, basically.
Yeah.
I would have liked to have seen some new content other than the same story rehashed with different characters. But
What about the Mandalorian though?
Mandalorian is
Pretty awesome.
fantastic.
I feel like The Mandalorian could save the Star Wars universe.
Oh, totally. Did you watch the last episode of the 2nd season?
Yeah, I did. And
Yeah.
did you tear up like I did?
You have no idea how many times I rewatched that.
Oh boy.
Dude, I'll send you a video where
I have not watched it. Don't spoil this for
Okay.
me.
okay, I won't spoil it. I'll send you a video of a guy reacting to the episode.
Yeah.
And you wanna talk about
Well,
tears.
I'll show you something since we're best friends now.
Oh my gosh.
You and Andrew are best friends, but yeah,
Dude.
so that's
We'll
lightsaber.
let you in. I was gonna have him
I've
guess
never
which
had a
lightsaber it
tattoo
was.
idea
He
until
knew.
just now.
No, this is on audio. No one knows what you just showed him.
I think he's doing a video
Oh,
too. Maybe.
I've got a YouTube channel, my guy. You're going.
Yeah.
Never mind. All right.
I've been picking my nose this whole time. I have no idea.
I don't even know what I've
The
done.
world's going to know about your
That
mustache.
mustache is getting out there. Everybody's gonna see it.
Oh, that's not good. This podcast is not going to go well for you.
You're gonna get flagged for inappropriate content with that mustache.
Seriously.
Yeah.
The world's going to see the Carrie Elways mustache you're rocking here.
All
your
right,
favorite
am I up for movies?
You're up for movies.
Okay. I'm going to go the sports route. So I like sports movies in general. I love the movie Moneyball. Just love the strategery of it. I also like the book too.
That's one of those vocabulary words. You have to look up.
Strategery.
Yeah.
And then the other one I'll throw out there is a classic, but Remember the Titans. I
Yeah.
love that movie.
That's good.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's up there for sure.
I love those movies. Those solid. Cool. All right. Last fun and final question. Actually, no. Final question after this, but it'll be a serious one. Last fun question. Do y'all believe in aliens? Yes or no, and why?
Oh man.
Go same order here.
Illegal or because yes, the one will fly around. No,
Yeah, I'm probably I'm a skeptic. I would say not really a believer.
How come?
yeah, I'll just go no. No reason. No.
No and no.
I'm not a firm no. I'm a questioner. Like I'll read the documents and stuff like that, and I like investigating what pops up. But yeah, so I'm not a firm no, but I lean towards no.
What qualifies as an alien?
Somebody life
Non-Earth
life
life.
outside of the Earth.
Yeah.
Let me
I feel like
let me
that's
tee
pretty
this
low
up for you,
bar.
Matt. Let me tee this up for you as an example. So, literally within this year, at the start of the year, the Israeli government released an official press release talking about how they are in fact in contact with interstellar nations from other planets. The Israeli government said this. So I'm saying, do you believe in
The Israeli government.
The Israeli government.
No,
Just like that as an example. Are you? Do you give that a chance?
Oh yeah, I'd give it a chance. I feel like it's. I mean, if it's really just that there's another life form out there, then yeah, I feel like that's probably.
Well, that the Israeli thing is claiming there's intelligent life.
Well,
out there
that I don't know, but
that is capable of contacting us.
So, do aliens have to have intelligent life?
If
That's
you
why I'm
think
kind of
there's
asking.
other like biological creatures on other planets, that can be something, but it's just the extent of what you think is out there, you know?
Sounds like he's got to dwell on that a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking like there's some like little microbes or something out on
Might be out
another
there.
planet, you know. But
I
I'm
think
not
it's
sure
definitely
if they're
interesting.
Yeah.
I look at stuff like I read something about that. The Fermi Paradox. That's basically like your I think it's like if like we haven't detected any, you know, maybe Israel has, but like for the most part, wide scale, there's not like a widely known that there is aliens. Maybe some people believe that there is, but like the Fermi Paradox would be like if there is a species that is powerful enough and has technology advanced enough to travel between stars and stuff like that, they would either one wipe us out because we're nothing to them and wouldn't offer any value. So it's probably better that we wouldn't run into them, or two, if I forget what it is, but it's interesting, like on why we either haven't or won't.
Yeah.
And with like the expanse of the universe, even if there is a powerful one or there's aliens out there that have high enough technology that could reach us with the expanse of the universe, they might never reach us because they're going to be on a star that's far enough away that physics as we know it wouldn't make it possible. So it's like, I think it's really interesting, but I don't know. I still lean with a no after all that.
That was a lot.
What about you?
And I don't really know what I'm talking about, but
this is so obviously once again this is where I kind of find myself in my own demographic of being a Christian guy that thinks about aliens and conspiracy theories. Literally, I mean, if you think about like Genesis chapter 6, talking about the sons of God like coming down and having children with the daughters of men, and then they gave birth to essentially the Nephilim. Literally days after that, like, or not days, but like in the times after that, they were talking about how those men were like men of renown and warriors, like great warriors, and like beyond anyone else. And so literally just me not literally leaning on this as fact or anything whatsoever, and not making any of my, you know, life decisions based on this information at all. Which I need to like, I repeatedly say that to my like coworkers. I'm like, listen, this is just a fantasy thing, but
it's just fun to think about.
Wouldn't it be something though to think about it in this perspective that, you know, the sons of God obviously being referenced as angels, leaving their immortal bodies, coming down and taking physical forms to be with daughters of men, and them possessing a higher knowledge than we do, or secrets to the universe that they would put on display for us to that we wouldn't be able to understand. And then all of a sudden, as they travel the world, as they do the things that they do with their knowledge, they're considered gods. Maybe in a mythological sense, gods of Olympus, Norse gods of Europe, or the gods of Egypt, just taking on whatever roles or positions that, you know, they would fancy themselves to be a part of, and then to later recede out of history so that, you know, they can go to other places amongst the universe. But then also simply like in this day and age come in contact with, you know, the human race once again, and everybody thinks it's these little green men with giant eyes and like suction cup fingers, but maybe it is more than just that. Maybe it's on a completely like heavenly realm type basis, you know. And that's the rabbit hole that I've gone down. And like, in all honesty, if somebody had the ability to travel interstellar space or interdimensional space, I would only assume that would be somebody who is really in touch with like the dimensions that God laid in this world, you know. And
Yeah.
so, I mean, for us to be here as long as we have, and for the knowledge that we have, it's like anybody else that's doing it on a grander scale that way probably knew something way back then too. And the Chariots of Fire were a little bit more something else than just a flaming cart being pulled by horses through the sky, you know?
Hmm.
So that's
Yeah,
my,
It's
that's my
interesting
two
stuff.
cents.
Yeah, it's fun to think about.
Yeah, I never considered that.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
almost sounds more like angels than aliens to me. And maybe it's the same type of thing that we're talking about, but
Well,
yeah,
it's like everybody says aliens, but then I would be like, maybe angels, you
right.
know?
Yeah.
Sure.
But that's the
Interesting.
fantasy, you know. I don't take that to the bank remotely.
Right.
Yeah, not even
That's
close.
cool.
But all right, final question, and then we'll wrap it up. I like to ask people how they're essentially living their life on a mission, and I would ask you guys, as you know, men, husbands, fathers, and sons, how are you guys living your life on a mission?
Well, I mean, we talked a little bit about it through our pillars and everything we're trying to do, but I just said this on a last podcast we were, so I'm not trying to be cheesy with it, but it is something I've got posted as one of my main goals that I look at every day, where it says, success is not what I've done compared to what others have done. Success is what I've done compared to what God has called me to do. And I think I said before, we've all been called for something, and we've all been put in a specific position in our jobs and our with our wives and our children and as children. So it's our job to figure out what that is and have God lead the way for that. So, that's my mission right now. I feel like is being a good husband, being a good father, leading them well, and trying to be a light as much as possible in my workplace and with any conversation that I have, and continue to trust God that He'll continue to open up doors to have more conversations.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think along those same lines, it's utilizing the platforms that I have. So being more intentional at work, although I'm working from home right now. So any communication between people at work is getting a little difficult still, just sitting at home on Teams meetings all day. But utilizing the platforms that God has given me. So this podcast is huge. Putting those things out there that are not necessarily comfortable, but other people might use to grow, to get to know God better. So just really leaning into where God has put me. It's the same as Mike, kind of just living each day that I'm in, and trying to do the best I can to honor God with the situations that I'm given. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that kind of circles around that main theory, but that's kind of the gist of it there.
Nice.
Yeah, I think probably similar to what both these guys have said as well too, and then also, just trying to live out and be an example of a man that I want like my sons to see as well too. With my 4 boys, like be an example of like loving their mom like I should, like Christ would want me to love her, like Christ would want me to love them. And so having that in addition to kind of like the podcast and those kind of things that we're doing on like the home front, like being the man that God wants me to be and being able to serve them in servant leadership rather than just kind of throwing my weight around and bossing the kids around and all those other kind of things. I can't boss my wife around. She can boss me around probably more so. But being that type of man, that they would be able to respect and I'd be able to show up.
Nice.
All right. I would echo all those things. Those are all great. I think about all the same things. The only thing I'll add is just trying to focus in general on how to love people better. I feel like I'm learning. I've been going through. We mentioned Bob Goff earlier. I feel like he has a really creative mind on how he loves people in different ways. But that's been just part of my mission of how do I love people better? How do I engage better with people that I work with? People that obviously are even closer in my own family, friends. So that's kind of another part that I'm focused on as well.
Is the rest of your mission to grow that sweet stash?
Yeah, just
as
to
thick
bless
as
the world
possible.
with it.
You're definitely on mission then.
Thanks, man.
Start getting the wax tips at the end and everything.
I was thinking I probably need some of that
Yeah,
pretty
you're
soon.
getting close.
Cool. Well, you guys, y'all are awesome. Thanks so much for coming on the show. I really do appreciate it. Just for everybody that listens, and they, want to check out your stuff, obviously coreforlife.com is a resource, but is there any other resources they can check out about you guys?
Yes, we're on all social media at Core4Life, Core FOUR Life, and our website is core4.life. So you can access all of our information on that site and get to know us each a little bit better. We've got a backlog of episodes you're welcome to listen to, and we'd love to hear from you if you heard us on this podcast too.
Cool. Any merch people can buy or anything like that, or?
Yeah, we do have merch up on our website. So we got a t-shirt and a hoodie and a tumbler, and we'll probably be rolling out a little bit more stuff soon. But yeah, lots of good stuff up there.
All right. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much for having me on, and I love talking to you guys. We're obviously going to talk again soon, and you guys are going to come down, and we're going to do a underground tour together. So
the local bourbon tour.
Yep.
Nice.
Cool. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah,
awesome. Thanks, man.
Yep. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. I'm stopping the recording right now, but
that's what I'm going to do too.
Once again, to do a appearance on y'all show or whatever y'all want to do, obviously just let me know. I'm good for whatever.
But we'll set something. I'm going to stop it, and your voice might go away for a little while, but we'll be right back. 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 But